Updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. As a layman, I have a difficult time, based on reading the reporting, whether AI is already exceeding the pace of development and impact on our daily lives that was anticipated, or it's sort of languishing as large language learning models and nothing more. There's warnings, and then there's nothing to worry about. For example, Axios reporting that top AI experts, top men at OpenAI, Anthropic, and other companies are warning of the rising dangers of their tech, with some even quitting in protest or going public with grave concerns. For example, some OpenAI researchers wrote on X, "I finally feel the existential threat that AI is posing." Jason Calacanis, tech investor, co-host on the All In podcast with the Tech Bros there, wrote, "I've never seen so many technologists state their concerns so strongly, frequently, and with such concern as I have with AI." And entrepreneur Matt Schumer compared this moment to the eve of the pandemic. He laid out the risks of AI fundamentally reshaping our jobs and lives. And in some respects, that's what drove, market analysts that we talked to, like Jim Perry, that's what drove the sell-off last week. At the same time, you read pieces like this in the Wall Street Journal: America needs AI that can do math. This piece from Jack Hittery, who's a CEO in the tech space. China will release its next 5-year plan next month. These plans are important because China pours billions of dollars into and otherwise gives favorable treatment to the sectors targeted in these programs. The U.S. will need to use a whole new class of AI models built for the world of science and math, not language and images, to stay competitive with China as it puts the pedal to the metal in critical sectors. So on the one hand, we're about to go over the edge. On the other hand, we're falling behind. To help us try to understand where we're actually at, give us some perspective on that, which would be much appreciated. We're pleased to be joined by Neil Chilson. He's former chief technologist for the FTC, current head of AI policy at the Abundance Institute. You can read his writings at outofcontrol.substack.com. That seems like an appropriate title for a Substack. Neil Chilson, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to be on with you, Dan.
So, am I right to be confused, or am I missing something that that would help me reconcile where we are in this revolution?
Well, I'd say you're right to be confused. I think a lot of people are. There are a lot of different narratives about AI, and in part that's because artificial intelligence is such a broad technology. It has uses across the entire economy, and so people are trying to figure out how it affects their particular uses and their particular interests. And, and it's sort of like, being on the edge of the introduction of electricity. Everybody's trying to figure it out. It seems really powerful. It seems maybe scary. It's confusing, and there's a lot of different stories to tell. And so I do think that picking through that towards the opportunity that this presents for normal people is really important.
Well, and it could be, both. It could be that we're both speeding ahead and falling behind. It just depends. We're speeding ahead in one direction, we're falling behind in another, like that op-ed I referenced where the argument is we need to develop AI tools that do science and math, not just language,
Yep.
and we need to do it post-haste. So, it could be, it's the old William Gibson, right? The future is here, but it's distributed unevenly, and you've got all these AI companies that have raised all this money to do similar but different things as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and experts talk about how the capability frontier, like the cutting edge of what these technologies can do, is really jagged. And so in some areas, it seems really advanced, and in other areas it seems, worse than, a toddler sometimes. And so that frontier is moving outward all the time. These tools are becoming more capable and more useful for people, but it's uneven, and understanding where it's uneven is an important part of using these tools well.
Well, develop that for us, and in conjunction with these fears that are being expressed by people within these industries, including the Schumer prediction that it's like the eve of the COVID pandemic.
Well, I think the pandemic parallel is really a real myth by Matt Schumer. The pandemic was something that happened to people, right? This was something you hunkered down and you hid in. Governments reacted, and in many cases overreacted to. AI is a new technology. It's a set of tools, and it's a set of tools that aren't just useful to, the eggheads building specific types of big computer centers, but any single person can use it. If you can type, if you can speak language, you can use these tools. You can get some benefit from them. And so unlike the pandemic, I think hunkering down and like being a prepper is not the right mindset here. We need to think of ourselves as creators trying to use these tools, trying to get the benefit out of them because they really are powerful, and they can help people in all sorts of tasks that they've used. We've seen dads use them, for example. There's a great story about a dad whose son had a very rare disease, and he was able, by understanding some of the basics of this, using some of these tools, he was able to bring together experts who weren't not talking to each other about these issues to maybe find a productive path forward for his son's very rare disease. And there's lots of examples like that. And I think the innovation in this space is primarily going to come from people trying to apply these powerful tools to the problems that they see, rather than, way off in Silicon Valley or, in Washington, D.C., people trying to figure out how to impose them on the rest of the nation.
Well, what is the fear that is being implicated by those that are worried that AI is already going off the rails in terms of its ability to be harnessed? Is it just the job displacement? Is it, basically, is it the Schumpeterian creative destruction that they're worried about at this point, or what exactly is it?
Yeah, I think some of it is job concern. There is this idea. Some of it is hyped up by industry that we're trying to build what they call AGI, which would be they sort of, there's no real good definition for this, but you could think of it as able to do everything that a human could do. And people immediately jump from that to saying, like, well, what does that mean for my job? Does that mean I'm going to be replaced by a computer? What we know about these technologies right now is that they are very helpful for certain sets of tasks. And so jobs are these big bundles of lots of different tasks. I think everybody here can think of all the soft skills that, while they might write on their resume what their job is, there's all sorts of things that they also have to do in that job that have only seem they're hard to describe, they're hard to write down. And so I think there's ways in which these tools are going to make people more productive. There will be some types of job loss, but I think it's going to be tasks that are replaced more than jobs. And that, therefore, the key question is, how are we making it easy for workers to skill up, to be adaptable, and to be able to take advantage of these tools that, again, anybody, if you can type, can use.
Well, speaking of that, is there a general appreciation for what these tools can do right now, even? Because there's a real difference between people that are using the apps free, the AI applications free, versus those that have paid, so they have access to more. I saw one blogger sort of comparing it to like dating sites, where if you're just browsing for free, your options are a lot more limited. You don't really get the full complement of benefits, if you will, from the site, opportunities from the site if you're not a paid subscriber. And it's sort of the same thing with AI.
Yes, there are all sorts of tiers here where people can pay thousands of dollars a month for the most powerful versions of these, but mostly that's being used for coding. The paid tiers are often right at like $20 a month, but even the free tiers continue to advance, and there are new business models where people are exploring how to make sure that we can get it into the hands of people. I'd say it's worth exploring even the free tiers. And if you find it useful, and even if you tried this a year ago, this technology is moving so fast that the free tiers today are better than the paid tiers were just a year ago.
So what do you have any perspective on what the next threshold is? Is it going to be moving from LLMs to AI models that do science and math? Is it going to be humanoids, Elon Musk's Optimus and, autonomous robots doing household chores and things like this? What do you think?
Well, again, I think as a general purpose technology, I think there will be applications across all of these areas. We're already seeing big advancements in the medical space, for example, where tools that are basically built on the same technologies, these large language models, are able to identify patterns of unhealthy behavior and how they correlate with outcomes that were very difficult to identify using traditional tools. And so we're seeing big benefits there. But again, I think the key thing here is as an application of sort of general, smarts, it's hard to say that there's any one big breakout moment. I think the best value that we're going to get from this is from having people experimenting and having a policy environment and a cultural environment that says, hey, don't hunker down and hope this blows over, but let's engage, let's be creative. We as Americans are very good at adapting. Historically, we've been, a frontier nation, a nation that loves to go into the frontier. This is a new frontier. It's a great opportunity, and everybody can engage in this. So you don't have to be a computer scientist to use these tools.
Yeah, there's been some real differences in approach and disposition towards government regulation here. Sam Altman has all but invited it. Others are rejecting it. They don't want the development to be impeded by sclerotic government. Where do you come down right now in terms of, are there any rules of the road that you think the federal government should be contemplating or promulgating at this juncture?
Well, as a powerful tool, there are obviously risks. I think it's really important for us to look at what harms might be coming out and say, like, hey, do we have laws that govern fraud, that govern misinformation, disinformation? If we do, are there gaps for that this new technology raises? And then seek to look at that. I would say, generally speaking, the model development itself is a very abstract thing, and the harms don't really happen until you're trying to build a tool that somebody might use or misuse. And so I would have government regulation focused on the use and the misuse and on the harms that come out of it, rather than on the pretty abstract building of the tool itself.
The misuse, it seems to me one of the issues from the outset has been protecting people's intellectual property. Is that being dealt with effectively, do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of litigation ongoing right now, and there's a bunch of different questions around IP. Can you train these models on somebody's intellectual property? When these models generate content that looks like somebody's intellectual property, is that an infringement? I think courts are looking at that very carefully on both of those fronts. I don't think that we really need new law here. There are protections for IP rights in the law, and that litigation is working out right now.
So you need courts to set precedents that can then provide instruction to the environment in terms of all the corporate attorneys at these companies understand where some of the lines are that present legal exposure. Sure, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. All right. Neil Chilson, thanks so much. Former chief technologist for the FTC, currently head of AI policy at the Abundance Institute, and you can get his writings on the topics we've been discussing and many more. outofcontrol.substack.com. Neil Chilson, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Neil joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at MVPCFP.com. That's MVP.